Hello, and welcome to the Waves webinar series. Today we're going to be talking about the Kramer master tape with none other than the master himself, Eddie Kramer. But before we get started, I'm going to take a minute and go through the format of the webinar for anybody that hasn't done one of these before. My name is Yanni and I'm the moderator. You can't see me, but I'm here working behind the scenes to help make sure everything runs smoothly. The webinar will last about an hour and has two parts to it. The first half will be a presentation from Eddie, where he'll take you behind the scenes and talk about his experience working with tape as part of his signal chain at the famed Olympic Studios, along with the Helios channel and Pi compressor. He'll also discuss his role in helping Waves to develop the Kramer Master Tape plugin, and we'll give a short demo of how the plugin works together with the HLS and Pi on several different instances. The second half of the webinar will be an open Q&A. Feel free to submit any questions you have, and based on how much time there is, we'll try and answer as many of them as we can get to. You can send your questions in at any time, but you won't see them right away in the chat, as they'll first go to me, and then I'll feed them to Eddie one at a time. Keep in mind that there are a lot of people online with us today, so we thank you for your patience as you wait to have your questions answered. I'd like to hand things over now to our presenter for today's webinar. In the course of a production and engineering career that has spanned over 4 decades, he's been behind the board for the biggest names in music, including the Rolling Stones, Traffic, Peter Frampton, Carly Simon, the Beatles, and Bad Company, to name just a few. But he is perhaps best known for 3 long-term associations in which he not only helped create some of the most important music of the rock era, but also set standards for rock production that set him aside as a true innovator. His work with Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, and Kiss produced music which continues to influence rock musicians and producers up till today. His mark in the industry is as legendary as the man himself, and we are honored to present him here for this event. Please welcome Mr. Eddie Kramer.
Hello, this is Eddie Kramer, and I'd like to talk to you folks about my Waves partnership. It started years ago, and I have to say I'm very proud to have been associated with them. We've done some fantastic projects, the Artist Signature Series, and now of course we've got this wonderful series with the Helios channel, the Pi compressor, and now the Kramer Master Tape. That's where we're at right now. So I'd like to show you something of what we've done. I'm going to play you a track and show you what we have in it. Basically, the way this all came together was, the concept was this, that in 1967 when I was working at Olympic, I was very, very fortunate to work with a bunch of great artists like Jimi Hendrix and the Rolling Stones and even the Beatles. But the thing that made the sound of that room so amazing was not only the acoustics in the room, but the recording gear itself. And the number one thing, of course, was the console, which had this fantastic mic pre and EQ in it, which we've managed to duplicate with great accuracy. And then, of course, the next thing in the chain was the infamous Pi compressor, which we have, and that is amazing sounding. But the third thing, what I call part of the triumvirate that sort of ties it all together, is the tape machine, which was a lovely old tube machine that essentially we recorded everything on. There were 2 4-track machines. One of them had tubes, one of them didn't. And what we would do is record all the basic tracks 4-track on the first machine and mix it down to the second machine and then bounce it back. But the sound of those machines was an integral part of how we got that big fat sound from all of these artists. And so Waves and I've figured out how to do that. I mean, the Waves, of course, have been the geniuses behind it with all the technical stuff, but I've been very much working with them closely, with a guy named Mike Fraddis and Amir Vinci, really clever guys, and I think the results speak for themselves. So now, without further delay, I'd like to demonstrate a little bit of what the Kramer Master Tape sounds like. All right, here's the track. So I'm just gonna, that was a little bit of the intro. I just want to show you with individual tracks what this can do for you. And we're going to just hold up that for 1 second. Let's hold that. All right, now the first thing we're going to try is going to be a bass. Now, I'm going to solo the bass DI. If you would be so kind, Spencer, to play the bass DI. Let's take the Kramer master tape out. As you can hear, that's the DI clean. Alright, now let's put the effect in. 2, 3, 4. Hopefully the bass will come back again. So as one can hear, that the DI clean is nice, but what we really wanted to do was to give it a slightly more distorted sound. So without too much trouble, by using 7.5 IPS and over bias and a little bit more crunch on the record side, you get this. Spin up a little bit further in the gap, please. Spencer, go past. There you go. Alright, take it out, please. So as you can hear, a nice clean sound, and as we kick it in, go ahead, kick it in. Right, I think that pretty much demonstrates what that 7.5 crunch with the Kramer master tape does. And so here's the bass amp. I think everybody would agree that that's a pretty gnarly, cool sound. Alright, so that's the bass. Let's have a look at guitar and see what we can do with the guitar. Alright. Play some guitar for me, please. So that's essentially a stereo mix of 2 rhythm guitars. So what we're going to show is what the Helios has done to those guitars. So can you show me the Helios plug-in without? I'd have to go back, please, a little bit more in the track, so I hear the rhythm track. Alright, now let's add in the Helios. So as one can hear immediately, the fact that that Helios has got such a, the HLS as it's called, has got a fantastic mid-range. The 2.8K, only at about 2 dB, is enough to give it fantastic brightness and presence in the track, which we'll demonstrate in 1 minute. I'm just showing you individual stuff now. Let's go for some vocals where you can hear what the Kramer master tape can do to vocals. Here's the vocal track. Okay, vocal.
I can't go up, I can't get through, I've got nowhere to turn.
And now we'll add the master tape in.
You, we are gonna burn. I can't go up, I can't get through.
Alright, now take it out.
I've got nowhere to turn. Down on me, coming down on you.
So essentially what we have is a vocal that maybe was a little edgy and a little too over the top. in its initial recording, and I decided I wanted to try and smooth it out a bit. And that's one of the great advantages of the Kramer master tape, is that you can mess with the speed. You can either use 15 or 7.5. You can overbias it, you could crank the level up, but not only that, you can also do slap, which is what we've added in. So what we've done is, on that slightly edgy vocal, we put the 7.5 in. We've adjusted the record level so that it's just taking some of the mid-range bite out of it, but also we've added in some slap. So here it is again.
I can't go up, I can't get through. I've got nowhere to turn. Down on me, coming down.
Yep, okay, that's very cool. Let's also see what we can do with the piano, which is somewhere down the end there. And here's a piano track that has a fair amount of brightness on it, would you mind playing? Thank you. The headphones died. Now let's put the master tape in. So what we've done to it is pretty interesting, I think, because we've taken that. It's a fairly aggressively recorded track, just octaves descending. Yes, I'm afraid I had to play that part, but what we did was we figured out, okay, how are we going to make that track sound a little bit more exciting, a little different? One of the things you could do is not only put the tape delay in, excuse me, but there's a thing in there which old tape machines have, and that is the amount of warble, which is what I call warble. Basically, it's the fact that these machines didn't quite run perfectly every time, and we can. I can't see that with a wow and flutter. What I call warble is really wow and flutter, and obviously, an old machine is going to have a fair amount of wow and flutter. Now, you try to minimize that. Obviously, when one is recording, you make sure that the capsule motor is running properly and all the rest of it. But what we can do with the plug-in is that we can increase the wow and flutter, or the warble. And so what I've done is I put slap and warble. Let's play it again so you can all hear it. There it is without. All right. So it gives one a nice little tool. Okay, you can hold it. It gives us a nice tone color. The whole thing with these plugins is the fact that you can use them as an artist uses a palette. There's an enormous range of tone colors, a palette from which you can choose just to adjust things, paint a different texture, more distortion, less distortion, cleaning it up, rounding up. For instance, I know a lot of the hip-hop and rap guys are using the Kramer master tape, the KMT as we like to shorten it for, because a lot of the stuff they do is in the box, and a lot of rock guys are in the box all the time. And you know, quite often when you're recording a voice digitally, you may not get the perfect sort of present, cool vocal sound. You need something to take that snippy little thing in the middle of the sound. There's that mid-range that's really annoying. The KMT just does it. It just sort of rounds out the edges. Let's go to a couple of other things. let's go to a drum sound. Here's a mono drum mic that's in the room, and we're going to show it without any of the stuff that we've done to it. But it's this is an example of what the Pi compressor can do. That's just one mic without anything added to it. Now we're going to throw it in. Here we go. As one can hear with the gate and the Pi, it's got such an amazing amount of attack. And here's the, I'll put all the drums in so we can hear what it does. Go ahead. That's without it, and here's with it. Okay. As one can hear, it really, without no pun intended, it puts a real point to it. Let's try something else on the drums. Let's listen to the snare, and the snare should sound something like this without all the stuff. Oops. All right, let's add in the effects. All right. Let's stop for a second and analyze what we've just done there. So, as part of the sound, obviously we've used the Helios with a little bit of 1.4 K, a little about 2-3 dB of boost, and we've also we've rolled off some of the high end as well. But the thing that's giving it the grief, as we call it, let's have a look. Let's kill the Helios plugin, mute that, and let's just have a look at what the tape is doing there. Okay. Now put that in bypass. So essentially, what we have is a snare that's pretty bright and right in your face. But what I wanted to do was to give it a different character. Now let's put the tape in. So when you hear that sound, now let's put the Helios in. Can we see the Helios? And then when you add the room, it sounds pretty massive in the track. So once again, it's 7.5. We've cranked up the record level side. Where's the bias at? I can't see that from here.
The bias is at about 569.
So by messing with the bias and the record level, you can tailor the sound for your own particular purposes. All right. Let's see. What else can we throw at you guys? Let's have a look at... well, the kick has a Pi compressor plug-in on it. Let's have a look at that. Right. That's one of them, and here is the other. This is the sample kick as well as the regular kick.
That is with the Pi compressor.
So with the Pi compressor in there, that's going to put that bass drum right in your face. So if you put that with the snare and the room, That snare and the bass drum are seriously in your face. Okay, let's hold it right there. Let's find something else. There's a little bit of stuff that we did on the harmony vocals. Let's go over to the harmony vocals. And let me just kill this. All right, here we go, harmony vocals. All right. Are they coming up? Don't see them. Okay, should be coming up any second. That's interesting.
Sorry about that.
They disappeared on. We had to find them. All right. Hopefully they'll be here. Are they muted? Yeah, we're not getting them for a second, so let's just go to something else. Let's try the whole stereo bus with the Kramer master tape as part of the procedure. Let me unmute everything. All right, here we go.
Bypassed?
Bypass. All right, now we put it in. As you can hear, the Kramer master tape is doing a terrific job on the stereo bus. Once again, you can use the tone color at 7.5. You can slightly over bias, you don't have to, or you can go at 15 for less coloration. But we kind of like that, what it's doing. Let's just talk about where we have the record level and the playback level and what the bias is. And there's
Alright, our record level's pulled back just to record level. Our bias is set about standard here. You know, it sounded really good when we pulled it up just like that. But however, if you want a little bit more crunch to it, you can kind of bring your bias up.
Exactly. So that's the whole point of this exercise, is that it's up to the individual user to find that sweet spot, depending on the music, depending on the song, depending on the taste of the producer and the engineer. All right. I think we've done pretty much it on this one. There's some more stuff with Helios, which we could show you, but I think the most interesting thing is what the Kramer master tape can actually do for most tracks. I mean, virtually everything, whether it's drums or vocals or guitars or the overall bus, as a device that will give you, the end user, a tremendously wide range of tone color, and that's what I'm hoping that you will enjoy. Thank you. Any questions? Let's take some questions. Oh, I see it. There's a question here. It says comment from Studio Tan. Does that mean to say that you guys are out in the open with the sun shining on you? Never mind. What are the sonic advantages with the 7.5 and the 15 IPS speeds? Well, what we were trying to demonstrate was that obviously 7.5 with its roll-off characteristic. Being different, 15 of course gives you full range from probably about 30 or 40 cycles up to 15k. 7.5 by its very nature is going to roll off at about 12k. So that roll-off is an advantage. Like I said, if you have something that's incredibly nasty and bright, you can use it as a filtering device. But it's more than that. It also gives you the advantage of, at 7.5, you can add a lot of crunch, which is, to me, a wonderful device, because using multiple sets of plugins, you get the clean sound, you get the crunch. That's the sonic advantage. All right, next question, please. Hey Eddie, great plugs. You're not referring to my hair, I presume. Can you explain how to collaborate? Oh, is that?
Calibrate.
Oh, it's calibrate. It looks like collaborate. The VU. It doesn't match my DAW. It's always much louder on the VU. Meters in the red with it digitally clipping. Cheers. I don't really know. I don't know what your system is. It doesn't clip in here. I mean, obviously you reach a point where you're going to get distortion. Maybe Spencer can help you with that one.
You know, in here we have ours set to 18. I guess you could spin it and you can kind of calibrate it. You know, we just go with standard -18 is digital 0. And there's also an input and an output meter selector right here. The I being your input, and then you click over and there's also an output selector. So you can view either what's coming into your Kramer master tape, or you can view on the output side what's leaving the master tape. You should go to 2D for that.
2D?
Oh, sorry, I'll go back to the menu so you can see our window, and then I'll demonstrate this. Alright, so here we have the input meter selector, right here. And then here we have the output meter selector. So once again, we can then see what's coming into this plugin or what's leaving it. And then right here, this little screw right above your input-output meter, you have a little screw that you can click on and adjust. And ours is set to 18, which is kind of represents -18 digital 0.
Right.
And you know, I think that's just what it should be set at.
Thank you very much. That's the Professor Spencer here of the digital world. Done a lovely job. Thank you, Squire. All right, here's some more messages and some more questions. Excuse me. All right, comment from Gary. How well would these plugins work with non-rock music, jazz, electronic, acoustic? Oh, great. I'm so glad you asked that question. Depending on how you're going to use them, of course, if it's a jazz thing, if it's used subtly, and obviously you don't want to go over the top with this, the EQ, for instance, let's just say you have a string bass that you've recorded, say, with a microphone stuck wrapped in foam in the bridge, which is the way I would normally do it, and you want the bass to have more of a point in the actual mix. What I would do is use the Helios with 1.4K boost, maybe 1 or 2 dB, but it'll make such a difference. And then if you add, excuse me, if you add 2 dB at 60 cycles, which that 60 cycles is such a big fat sound, you could experiment with that, or the 120 gives you a wonderful big full fat sound on the string bass. In terms of how you record, if you're recording digitally, which I presume you are, I would try a subtle use of the Kramer master tape at 15. It gives a wonderful warmth to your final mix, as we demonstrated here. All right, next question. Comment from Two Forks Piranha. That sounds very dangerous. Where in the FX chain would you usually put the KMT? Well, I mean, that's an open-ended question. As we've demonstrated before, it could be on individual tracks, it could be on the bus, it could be on the stereo bus, it could be basically anywhere in the chain, and a combination of those.
You know, a nice thing you could also do with that is you could probably put it on some reverbs or some delays to give them a nice fatter sound and like take away the digital
Digital harshness.
digital harshness that some of those have.
That's another way. I mean, there's just so many places to put it in the chain. The idea of it, the Kramer master tape has such a wonderful effect. It's essentially, this is tape. I mean, you're getting all the benefits of tape, and if you want noise, there's a lovely device there on the far right hand side. If you want to increase the noise level, you can do that too, just to give that sound of tape hiss. Let's see, let's go to the next one. Comment from Dave C. In the years between using Olympic Studios and the original gear and before the new waves, did you always hire in the Pi gear? Great question. They're so hard to find. Yes, if I found them, I used them. To me, it was my weapon of choice in terms of how to get that massive smash on the drums, as you heard it on the mono room sound that we smashed with the Pi. It's now PIE, not PYE, by the way. I would hire it in or rent it, yes, when I could find them. Thank you. Any more questions, sir? Comment from Jim. Where would you place this one on the 2 bus in relation to other plugins, EQ, compressors, limiters? Well, we could definitely tell them how we did that.
Well, quite typically we we would tend to go before the compressor. Maybe EQ is kind of of your choice.
Let me just address that issue. In the stereo bus chain of command, when you come out of the stereo bus, I always prefer to go into an equalizer first and then into the compression, and then obviously to tape or to back into Pro Tools. I would put this probably after the EQ, which is the first thing in the chain, then put this, and then put the compression. That would be my choice. But once again, experiment. See what sounds good for you. Comment from Gil. Hi, Eddie. How do you gauge the amount of warble, I couldn't read that, warble, wow, and flutter to use on a specific track? Do you first solo the track and then listen to it in the mix? Yeah, I mean, it's just my imagination. I hear a piano and I go, oh, let me see if I can mess that up, because I love to mess things up. If you leave it standard, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's just a piano, just compress. I just like to go maximum first and then pull it back and find, okay, where's the cool position for that sound in relation to everything else? Because obviously if you do too much of it, then you're drawing too much attention to it. So this is an experience thing, but use your ears, mate. Comment from guest. Having gotten into recording just as tape machines were going from many studios due to costs, I wonder how the delay function you demoed on the on the Vox and piano was done before on a real tape machine, so I know what the plugin is doing behind the scenes today. Well, essentially it's doing the same thing. When I mix, I use a combination of real tape machine at 15 or 7.5 plus the plugins, because I don't have 20 tape machines at my disposal. So to me it sounds damn close. I mean, there's virtually no difference between the two. It's just like having an extra bunch of tape machines in the box. Next question, please. Comment from guest. Hey Eddie, what are some of your other go-to waves plugins you frequently use when mixing rock music? Oh boy. Well, we know we've dealt with the Pi, we know with the Helios, and we've dealt with the Kramer master tape, but there's a whole bunch of stuff. The Artist Signature series that I put together with Waves, which is part of the arsenal that we use. Amazing stuff that works just as well. I've got a lot of presets in there with reverbs and pre-delays, compression and EQ, which work for vocal, for bass, for drums, guitars. That's what I would use. Comment from Sterling. What problems might you run into with the build of cycles if you use the tape on every track, i.e. build up too much of certain frequency ranges? Well, quite frankly, I've never come across that problem. I've never used it in excess. I mean, you could, like with anything else in life. I mean, if you find it's building up, then don't use as many of them. That's what I would say. Not a problem I've run into. All right, next question, please. Comment from Studio Tan. Hey, the Tan guys. Would you expand a bit on using the Helios on vocals, female and male? Absolutely. Let's dial up a Helios, for instance. The Helios is a particularly aggressive kind of equalizer, and I would say that you've got to be careful, as with any EQ, but the Helios in particular, I love it on guitars, particularly if you want to make a guitar. Whoops, I just lost myself. Oh, there he is. I'm back again. On guitar, it makes it pop through the track easily. There's no question about that. On vocal, I would go, well, once again, is it a male voice, a female voice? What is it? Okay, you say male and female. On a male voice, depending on whether it's a rock guy or not, if you want to add a little bite to it, I would suggest you could try the 2.8, but I think the 3.5 might be better, or even go up higher. I can't see it.
The 4.5.
The 4.5 is very nice, gives you a nice sort of sheen in the upper mids, and then the last one is 8. 6. The 6K and the 4.5K for male or female voice is really good. Now, let's just say you've got a female voice that is a bit thin. There's a low frequency down there. You can see right about there. We're showing them this, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't really see the numbers.
400,
It would
250.
come down. 120.
120.
Yeah, the 120 is a great, it's a very broadband 120, and I think that works incredibly well to build up the bottom end. This is once again an experimental thing. You could try the high frequency up at the top there, but when you click on it, it's like 4 dB. So just click on that to show when you click on that. See, that's 4 dB at about 10K, and that's quite bright. Obviously, if you have a dull voice, that's what you would go with. But just use discretion. Discretion is the better part of valor. Next question, please. Comment from Bob. I record a lot of guitars in my music. I keep it simple. What kind of presets are available for guitar? What would Jimi Hendrix think about this technology? Well, Jimi Hendrix, J-I-M-I, by the way, not J-I-M-M-Y. Just he would get really mad at you if he saw that. But only kidding. Jimmy would have definitely embraced all of this technology, since he was very, very acutely aware of the expansion of his recording horizon, starting with the 4-track in England that we did with him at Olympic, going to America, and then coming from 4-track to 12, and then 12 to 16. I mean, that's where the last thing I recorded with him was on 16-track. So Jimmy was very aware of all the modern technology and embraced it particularly. The presets, if you go to the previous set of plugins, which is the Artist Signature series, there's some very cool presets for guitar in that. Next question, please. Comment from guest: do you find a combination on the HLS and the KMT help glue the bass and the kick together? Maybe one more than the other, or always a combination of both? Well, I think the glue is the fact that the HLS and the KMT do that. They actually do help glue things together, and I agree with your observation there. you're asking one more than the other. See, that's once again, it gets to personal taste. What's the track? How's the drummer playing? All that kind of stuff. But I would say that the KMT is the glue that has the most sort of flexibility. If you want things to really hit hard, obviously you're using the HLS to give you that bite and punch in the EQ. But the KMT is the final glue that puts it all together. Thank you. Next question. Comment from Simon Tanner. If I have multiple instances of the KMT, are then synchronized wow and flutter? I'm not quite sure if I follow the question. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, lad. Multiple instances. Let's say we had a whole bunch of KMT on there. What would you say?
You know, I think it varies. If you have them all running through the same track, then of course the wow and flutter are going to be synchronized. But however, if they're all on individual tracks, I think it kind of depends on the instrument's timing. Like if the guitar is a little bit out of time with something, then I think your wow and flutters are definitely going to be off. Because I'm sure it's all based off of the timing of the instrument that's playing.
Next question, please. Comment from guest. What is the bias setting for... We didn't get that, guys. There's no continuation of that. We need
I think they mean what's the purpose of the bias setting?
Oh, what is the bias setting for? I didn't get that. I see. Well, the bias setting is it's basically duplicated from the original way the machines were manufactured. You needed to adjust the bias. You either underbias or overbias depending on the tape speed, and of course you set it at 10K, and you, depending on the type of tape that you had, you would either underbias or overbias for the best frequency response at the higher frequencies. What we have here in the Kramer master tape is the ability to completely go way past any of those bias settings and use the overbias and underbias as an effect. That's the idea behind it, is that what folks have discovered now is that because there is this wide range of bias, you can just use it for your own advantage. Next question, please. Comment from guests, were any of the sounds we heard today presets, or were they all custom setups?
You know, we've kind of just custom set them all up. We set them up a little bit yesterday and kind of got it all rocking.
But the thing is, even though we set it up yesterday, you couldn't really say they were presets. They were what was in the box, and I just tweaked them for myself for this particular mix. I actually set this up as I was going to do a mix. What you're hearing is a rough mix of a song that I've already released. This is on an album by a guy named Clifton David Kirk Broadbridge, or as we call him, C.K. Broadbridge. He's from Toronto, and it's a great track, actually. Now, you know, there's no such thing as a direct preset. This is up to the individual to use. Next question, please. Comment from Dave C. When you showed the KMT, you were doing quite extreme things with it. Warble on the piano, crunch on the bass, and delay on the vocalist. Do you tend to be using it as an effect like that, or would you use it more subtly? That's a great question. I love using it for effect and for extreme things, because I think that that's my tendency with mixing, is to have a really nice, solid, strong mix and then use some extreme examples to draw. Okay, hi everyone, we've lost Eddie. Oh, well, Eddie's back now. By the way, we were hit by a bunch of sunspots and aliens came down, and that's the reason why we didn't hear us. Okay, from Dave Reiser. I know that guy. Do you feel that the plugins really authenticate the true tape machine and vintage hardware exactly? If not, how close are they? Bleeding close, mate. I can't tell the bloody difference, but there you are. I think they're extremely close, and I think that Waves should be congratulated. Certainly with the Kramer master tape thing that they pulled together. It was 2 years of very heavy-duty research, and it's phenomenal. I really do think that they have nailed it. And well, do an A/B comparison, mate, and you tell me. All right, next question. Comment from Philip. Do you still mix and produce, and have you used master tape on a session for anyone? Yeah, I'm still mixing and producing, and I'm still standing, believe it or not. Next year, 50 years in the business, mate, and I'm still cranking. And have I used the master tape on a session for anyone? Well, not just anyone. I mean, you know, it's Jimi Hendrix and all the other artists that I'm working with. Yeah, you could say it's just about anyone. Next question. Carl Alleron. I can't see who that is, but what drives, motivates you before and during a project? I could be very flippant and say it's the money, mate, but that's not. It's the music, mate. Quite frankly, if the music doesn't turn me on, then just forget it, you know. That is the motivating factor. I have to enjoy myself. As you can tell, I'm still having fun. Next question. Comment from Umit. Just wanted to say we love you. Aw, thank you guys. That's really sweet. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Love goes around, you know. All you need is love. Comment from Vinny. Was Helios used on Zep? I think the first album was recorded at Olympic. I think Glyn Johns must have done it there. Yes, and that was Helios. Next question. Comment from Sterling. Do you have any suggestions for engineers building their portfolios as far as education versus experience? Engineers building their portfolio. I think you should build your portfolio so you're worth a couple of $1 million before you get into the business, mate. Next question. Comment from AM. Can you suggest some approaches for using the KMT as a mastering plugin? Thanks. Haven't used it per se in mastering, although as you've noticed we have used it on the bus as part of the final master mix. So in that sense it's kind of headed towards that. I'd be very curious. I have not used it in quote-unquote a mastering session in a mastering room, you know, like Bernie Grumman or Sterling Sound, but I'd be curious to see if anybody's actually done that. Let me know. Next question, please. Coming from Roger Mead. I love the sound of the acoustic guitars on Zeppelin albums. Was it the mics and the techniques you use? Or Jimmy Page's guitars were wonderful. I think with Martins, I remember using probably 67s and AKG 451s on the acoustic guitars. A little bit of light EQ, a little bit of compression, and it was a Helios board, believe it or not. In the truck, it was a Helios console, which I used at Stargroves, which was Mick Jagger's house. Next question. Comment from the Warehouse Recording Studio. What happened to the original Helios in Olympics, since I believe that studio has been closed? Hi Eddie, good to see you. Thank you. Well, Olympic, as you know, is no longer, which is one of the saddest things in the history of the British recorded music. I believe Keith Grant, who was my boss in those days, has the original Olympic console, and he is in the midst of restoring it. Next question. Are we done? Oh, one more. Hi Eddie, thanks for the webinar. From Lil Henriquez. What other vintage gear would you like to see a digital version of? Any word on the Woodstock project? Well, working backwards, which Woodstock project? I redid a whole bunch of stuff for Woodstock 2 years ago, which was a lot of research, and we mixed it here, in fact. That was a great project. But vintage gear, wow. I mean, what hasn't been covered? We've got Pultex. I mean, there's, well, you know, there are a couple of interesting things. The Neve had some amazing compressors. The 2254s, that'd be nice to see something like that. That'd be cool. LA2As. Well, I think there are folks who are doing that. Look, anybody who comes up with a great duplication of some kind of vintage gear, good luck to them, because it's a lot of work. I know how much work we put into this, or rather the Waves guys. But there you are. Thank you. Next question. Comment from Manuel. What is your first approach on mixing? I could be very...
Good music, solid recording.
Yeah, I could be very flippant and say, man, just smoke a big doobie, but no, I don't endorse that. Although there are some folks who do that, good luck to them. What's the first approach? Well, hopefully the thing has been recorded properly. I listen to the song, and if what has been recorded well and the song's nice, I try to get a vibe as to what is the direction, what does the producer want. If I'm the producer, then I know exactly how I'm going to mix it. But if it's somebody else's song that hopefully has been well recorded, you know, I just go for an overall feel. Like when I hear the song for the first time, I get an idea in my head how it should sound in the final analysis. So that's my approach. Any more? What console are you currently mixing on? Aha! I'm glad somebody asked that. This is a wonderful API vintage console that to me is one of the best sounding mixing consoles I've worked on in years. It's got the original 550s. It's got inward connections, op amps.
Blocks and op amps.
The inward connections, op amps and blocks. It's automated. To me, this is one of the sweetest sounding analog consoles I've ever mixed on. Really lovely. And I've done probably 3 years, almost 4 years worth of work here, and virtually everything sounds sweet. Okay, what DAW software are you currently using these days?
We're using Pro Tools 9, latest version, 9.0.5.
That's Spencer, by the way. My right-hand man today.
We got the old 192 IOs. They're great, you know, HD. We got, you know, 3 cards. Just a great DAW. Pro Tools works great for this kind of stuff.
And also, the fact that we use it when we mix, I mix, generally speaking, to an ATR tape machine and come out of there into a Burl Audio A to D converter, which I absolutely love and has been on all my mixes. I just think Burl makes the best A to D converters. Next question. Can you scroll? Can you bring it down? Oh, any more? That's it. Next question is last. Wrap it up. Comment from Jimmy. If I make it out to LA, can you please make... If I make it out, can you make tea for me? Whoever the Jimmy is, I want him to come and make tea for me, because, as I say to all the folks out there who are trying to become engineers, if you can't make a cup of tea, don't come to my session. But I love you all. Thank you very much for the questions. Thank you, Waves. Goodbye, you all.
All right, that concludes our webinar for today. Thank you, Eddie, and thank you all for taking part. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Be sure to check out our newest bundle, Tapes, Tubes, and Transistors, which contains the Kramer Master Tape, Helios Channel, and Pi Compressor. Together, they recreate Eddie's golden audio chain, which he used to record musical icons like Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, and the Beatles. That is all. Thanks again, Eddie, and thank you all for attending. Have a great day, and we hope to see you at the next one.